Hi everyone, welcome back again. Today I'm going to be making this heart and rose clay jewelry set, and I am very fond of steampunk designs, so I love that these have those steampunk style elements, but they're also very feminine and pretty, and these are really easy to make, and I will be making both the pendant and the earrings in today's video, so let's get started. For clays, I am using Sculpey Primo because they offer these really pretty metallic and pearl color effects. And I've got gold and silver metallics that I will be using for the steampunk elements. And then this peacock pearl and bright green pearl that I will be using for the roses. I have a larger heart cutter for the pendant and a smaller one for the earrings. And then I've also got two round cutters. This tiny one I'll use to punch the holes for the jump rings, and this larger one is going to be for my rose petals. For detail on these, I will just be using my straight pin. And then to turn them into jewelry, you will need a pair of earring hooks and several jump rings. I have got 3 larger ones and 2 smaller ones. I will also be using this improvised roller to roll my clay out and a small pair of pliers to assemble everything together when they're done. And I am going to start with this metallic gold color, and I am just going to flatten that out and then roll it into a piece that's large enough for me to cut out both my pendant and my earrings. So here it is, and pay attention to the thickness when you're doing these. You want it thick enough that it's not going to be fragile or brittle, but you don't want it so thick that you're not going to be able to get your jump ring through that hole after it's finished. So now we can cut out our heart shapes, and I've got a piece of plastic wrap here, and this is totally optional. I like to use it with the cutouts because it makes for a really smooth rounded edge there and not a corner. And I've got my larger heart cutout for my pendant and then this smaller one for the earrings. So now that we have our shapes, I am going to take my straight pen and add some surface texture to all of these hearts, and you want to make sure that your lines are as straight as you can get them. So I am going to start with a line straight across this way, and the hole for the jump ring is going to go right here, so I'm just going to go just below that point and go straight across. And when you're doing this, it's best to go shallow. You can deepen the holes or the lines later with your straight pen, but the last thing you want is crooked lines. And as long as you're shallow, you can just rub those out if you mess them up and then go over them again so that you get really nice straight lines. And I am going to do all 3 of these hearts at the same time. So I'm going to do the same thing with the earrings, and I'm just going to place my line just like the pendant about in the same spot straight across on both pieces, measuring those up so that they're even with each other as well. And next, I am going to add some vertical lines here and then another one offset on this side here. And I am doing all 3 pieces, so I'm going to start with these smaller ones. And now I'm going to add one more line right here below that first one that we made on all 3 pieces. And on the pendant, I'm going to add another line right here in this big area, and you don't want it directly below the top line. So I've got it kind of offset here, just like that. And once those lines are in and you're happy with them, you can go through with your straight pen and go over them again, make them deeper, and then follow each one of them down, around the edges. And this is what they'll look like, and you can see that my lines are much deeper and more defined, and I did follow them all the way around on all the edges. And now, using my straight pen again, I am just going to add some simple dot work around each one of these lines that I made. So I'm just, again, making small dots, just poke them in there and try to get them about evenly spaced as best you can. They don't have to be perfect. Just like that, and I do have a few spots here and here that I'm going to have to clean up. This is what they look like when they're done. And I was able to fix up those 2 holes here that I messed up with the straight pen. And next I will be adding the roses. So I have already rolled out my peacock pearl. Here it is, and this is a really pretty color. You are going to want to roll this out pretty thin for your rose petals. Not so thin that it's going to rip when you're trying to put them together. And now I've got this larger cutter here, and you're going to be making 2 roses for the pendant and then 1 for each of the earrings. So you'll need a total of 4, and each rose has 5 petals. So I will be cutting out 20 little circles here. And once you've got all of your petals cut, you can start assembling your roses. And there's a few different methods to doing this. Personally, I like to build mine 1 petal at a time because it gives me the freedom to control both the spacing and the height of those petals. And once you've got all the petals on there, you can come through with your thumb and just very gently fold them outwards so that it looks a little bit more natural. And I usually just roll these around in my hand so that I have a nice skinny little stem here. And then I will just continue rolling that until it's thin enough to just pinch off, just like that. Now I've finished all 4 of my roses, and you will notice that these 2 are a little bit smaller, so I am going to be using those 2 on the earrings, and these 2 larger ones I am going to put on the pendant. And I'm going to go ahead and just set these on here because I'm going to do that one first. And now we need to get these placed appropriately. You want them centered and not so close together that they're bending each other's petals, but close enough together that you don't have a gap there in between them. And once I have them placed about where I want them, I am going to very gently press them in to help adhere them to the clay beneath. And you want to be really careful not to mess up your petals. And now I am going to place the smaller roses up here on the earrings. And the same thing, you're just going to set it on there. And then these ones I like to place not directly in the center, but a little bit offset. So this one looks good over here, and the other one is going to have to move a little bit. Now all of my roses are adhered, and I've got my dotting tool, and I'm just fixing up the centers here really quick because I pressed on them a little bit too hard. This is what they look like, and now we can start making the leaves. And I am going to be using this bright green pearl, and I'm just going to start by rolling this into some little balls. And I've got my piece of plastic wrap here again that I am going to be using to make the leaves. And to make the leaves, you're going to start by rolling these balls into a point on just one side so you have some tiny teardrop shapes. And once you've done that, you can place those on the plastic wrap and then go ahead and press those in on the plastic wrap as well. And they will stick to that piece of plastic, and that'll make it much easier for us to add the detail on them. So now we can pick this up, and using your straight pin, you are just going to make some leaf lines on here. So I am going to start with a line straight down the center. And then I'm going to add the lines up each side of that one. And once you've got your lines marked, this should be pretty easy to peel off of the plastic wrap. You might have to use your needle to get underneath it and just peel it off of that plastic and then set that aside. And you will need several of these. So we're going to have 4 leaves on the pendant and then 1 each on the earrings. So you'll need a total of 6 of them. And I would start with a few more just in case you mess one up. Now I've got 6 of these done. I've got 2 sets here for my pendant and then another set here to go on each of my earrings. And I am just going to begin picking these up with my straight pin and then placing them on the pendant. And you want to pick them up down here towards the base and then kind of slide that end underneath your rose petals so that it can't be seen. And then you might have to press that on to remove your needle. And now I can place my other larger one on the other side of the pendant, and you want these moving kind of diagonally across the heart. And then the other 2, I will put each one of those on opposite sides of these ones. And now that those are done, I will go ahead and put 1 each of these leaves on my earrings. And again, you're just going to set those kind of diagonally across the heart on the opposite side of where we placed that rose in that empty space there. This is what they look like, and now I am going to go ahead and punch out my holes for the jump rings, and those are just going to go right in the center, just below that point in the middle here. And for the final step, I am going to take my metallic silver and just add a few random screw heads onto this piece to bring everything together. Now I am just going to start with a series of tiny balls, and then I'll probably do 3 on the pendant and then 1 or 2 on each of the earrings. And now that these are rolled out, I am just going to begin placing them kind of randomly around these empty spaces on the pendant. And again, you don't want a whole bunch of them, just they're just accent pieces. And now that I've got these placed where I want them, I am just going to gently press them into the piece, trying to keep them nice and round. And now I'm going to take my straight pin, and I am just going to add a small line right through the center of each one so that it looks like a little flathead screw. And you'll notice that I'm making my lines kind of moving in a different direction with each one because it just makes them look better, I think. Now here is what they look like, and all of these pieces are finished. They're ready to go in the oven. Check your specific clay for baking instructions, but I am going to bake these at 275 for about an hour, maybe an hour and 15 minutes. It is really important to pay attention to your specific clay's baking instructions. I have a video on my channel for these steampunk stitched hearts, and there is some discussion in the comments there about baking times and temperatures. Now, I've worked with a lot of different clays, and the temperature is usually pretty consistent at 275, but those baking times can vary pretty significantly depending on what brand and what type of clay you're using. For example, those steampunk stitched hearts I made with Sculpey 3 oven bake clay, and it calls for 15 to 20 minutes for every 1/4 inch of thickness, whereas the Primo clay that I'm using today recommends double that time, 30 minutes for every 1/4 inch of thickness. And I'm not really sure exactly what the difference is, that the Primo clays are so much more tolerant of heat, but they don't burn as easily as the regular clays either. I mean, you'd have to leave them in there for a pretty long time past that recommended time to actually burn them, and they tend to maintain their colors much better than the regular oven baked clays too, you know, so these won't fade or darken or change colors in the oven like some others will. And once you've got these baked, you can go ahead and fit your jump rings onto them. I am using a large one for the pendant and then a large one for each of the earrings. And then on the earrings, I'm also going to attach a smaller one so that they hang straight on the earring hook. And for my necklace, I am just using a piece of suede cord and some metal spacer beads, and you can use whatever you want. I like the suede cord because it's comfortable, and the sliding bead makes it really easy to adjust and also allows you to wear it as either a choker or a traditional necklace. That is it for today, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and let me know in the comments below. Please tune in next week on Wednesday, that is Valentine's Day. I will be making a pair of these cosmic butterfly earrings, and I am super proud of these because I made them without the use of a clay cutter, and I'm going to show you how to do it too. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you then.